From the oddly funny to the darkest it can get. Diver or not, today is a reminder to take smart risks and that no one is safe from accidents. My name is Rachel Fisher, welcome back Most Amazing Top 10 fam, and today we are covering our list of top 10 scary deep diver stories that will haunt you, and that they will indeed. So let's get going. Number 10. One Dumb Diver. This first story is from Reddit user One Dumb Diver, and boy does he live up to his name. His first mistake was heading out for a 90-foot dive alone, but he was just 15 years old and thought, how bad could it be? He needed to clear his head, so he headed out on his family's boat to the reef. While floating down at 90 feet, second mistake, he was only rated for 60. He saw a 3.5 meter mako shark. Mako sharks, according to the diver, only have two speeds, curious and lunch mode. Guess which mode this guy was in. Divers now use electronic pulses to freak out sharks, but he was using the older method of a chainmail sleeve. They bite the metal, they think, ugh, gross, swim away. But mistake number 3. He forgot the sleeve on his bed at home. Shark bit down, there was now an open, gashing wound in the water, and salt was burning his flesh. Mistake number 4. He had drifted a quarter-mile downstream from his boat. Luckily, he made it to shore, and 172 stitches, physical therapy to repair his tricep, and some crazy scars later, this deep sea diver never made the same mistakes ever again. Number 9. Funny from the outside. Okay, this one is scary and funny at the same time, and yes, it also involves sharks. Sometimes fear of the thing itself makes you do some pretty weird things to avoid it, which eventually makes the worst thing happen. Reddit user NZ Viking Rugger has to wear eye contacts, which makes wearing a mask even more of a necessity. The idea of going without them surpassed any other fears, even as a shark headed straight for her. While on a dive, a friend behind her had collided with a shark and her mask was knocked off. She couldn't stop thinking about the fact that her mask was knocked off, that even as a shark headed straight for her, she was more afraid of that. Usually sharks are more curious than anything, and usually they just shoulder bump you as they turn at the last minute, but this one wasn't. She was beelining for Viking. She kept calm though, and at the last second the shark was about to knock her mask, the diver just headbutted the shark in the nose. She may be the only person to ever headbutt a 11-foot shark because she was afraid she might lose her mask. And she's alive, so good for her. Number 8. Food poisoning. I can't think of a worse time to get food poisoning than like while scuba diving. Actually, I probably can. There's probably something worse, like I don't know, in front of like your crush or something like that, but this one is definitely up there. Reddit user SomeGuy12 recounts the moment he had to deal with seeing yesterday's lunch on a deep sea dive. He was 14, a relatively new diver, and just hit 20 meters below the surface with his dad and brother. About 45 minutes out, a foreboding churning began in his stomach, and, well, he started to upchuck into the water. The worst part is that the fish surrounding him thought it was lunchtime. They were like, whoa, look, sandwiches. No one was within arm's reach, so he had to keep clearing his regulator, puke, and then repeat until he was like all clear. No one noticed, and he just kept on with the rest of the dive. I am as horrified as I am impressed with his perseverance, but like, dude, go up to the surface. That's enough. Number 7. Shark rescue. Being a rescue diver means you often have to put yourself at risk in order to recover people who got themselves into trouble. Keith Baugh is a rescue diver in the Bahamas, and he was on a mission to find a missing diver. He was submerged in the infamous blue hole in the Bahamas and finally caught a flash of the diver's watch on his arm. He started swimming to the bottom and began to notice that the bottom was moving. An entire school of sharks were swimming right over the body. It was breeding season and there were so many sharks he couldn't see the bottom. He found the diver though, and as quick as he could began swimming up to the surface. Thing with diving though is if you rise too quickly you could get something called the bends, aka decompression sickness. The shark started following him, and when he reached 70 feet he had to take a break to adjust, and therefore spent 8 minutes surrounded by a school of sharks with a dead body in one hand. Like how he got out out of there without turning into shark food is pretty astounding. Number 6. Shipwrecked. Tom Pritchard had over 1,000 dives under his belt, was known for being incredibly detail-oriented and cautious. Nothing should have gone wrong, but of course, something did. Just what? Remains a mystery. Pritchard was working on attaching a mooring line to the Andrea Doria. The Andrea Doria is a shipwreck 300 miles outside of New York. When the line was attached, the other crew members explored the wreck before rising 75 minutes later. But where was Pritchard? The Coast Guard swept the area, but no one was found, and in the end, the captain ordered the crew not to return to look for him. After all, they had no idea how he disappeared, so going back down there could be even more dangerous. They could lose more people. The Doria has always been considered dangerous and has claimed 15 lives previously. As the years go on, the wreckage continues to get less and less stable. But whether Pritchard was trapped by the ship or died due to equipment failure, no one will ever know, and it just is. No one will ever know. Number 5. Snake Island. The problem with deep diving is that if there is a problem, you can't just rush up to the surface or you might literally explode internally. Decompression sickness. So staying calm is paramount, but it's not always enough. 3 divers decided to take on a 180-meter dive in Snake Wall in the Georgia Strait. One of the men stayed in the shallower area while the other 2 decided to dive as deep as they could. While they were down there, something happened, something went wrong, and while the second diver almost made it to the surface, he too perished as well. They were experienced divers, they wouldn't have been able to go in there if they weren't, so just exactly what happened to the 2 at the bottom still remains a mystery, because it could have been as simple as an equipment failure, but there's no proof. Number 4. They checked no. There is a reason why high-risk activities require you to sign and fill in a waiver or consent form. They ask about your health because you or someone else could be put at risk because of it. This one diver decided to check no on the form when it asked if they had epilepsy. Flash forward to a seizure attack in a pitch black cavern 85 feet below the water. In this story submitted by Reddit user Sharkbite, they noticed one of the diver's lights weren't moving. After heading over to see what was wrong, they noticed that the diver had no regulator in their mouth, which is the breathing apparatus, and their eyes were completely checked out and their teeth were clenched together. They forcibly purged the air into their mouth with the regulator, which moved their cheeks enough to indicate air was going in. That was good enough for them. The rescue diver then grabbed their arm and swam up straight 60 feet to get them to surface, risking the bends. Once to the shore, the rest of the team helped get their gear off, and though in shock, the diver recovered like nothing happened. Thankfully, they were only 10 minutes into the dive, otherwise they would have both ended up sick. The rescue diver was put at risk, shooting up to the surface to save them both, and said they would do it again if need be. And I mean, I would too, but like, boy would I be pissed. Hopefully this person didn't discover that they have epilepsy below the water. That could be a thing too. But if they knew and didn't say, someone's gonna get a stern talking to. Wow. Number 3. Sanctum. Even the most experienced divers can encounter deadly complications on dives, and to this day no one knows what brought Agnes Maloka down. Agnes was a stunt diver who had a fierce desire for underwater exploration. By age 29, she'd been featured in multiple documentaries and even acted in the movie Sanctum. But while on a dive in the Tank Caves in Australia, even her expert navigational skills were no match for the sinkholes, caves, and silt. Somehow she became separated from her diving buddy, and silt from the cave walls disrupted her vision. If you breathed too hard, the air bubbles would pop and disturb the ceiling and it would come crashing down. The following day, they found her body 500 meters from the entrance of the cave. Evidence suggests that she remained calm until her last breath, but no one knows what the exact reason was for her struggle. It could have been she ran out of air. Anything could have happened, but either way, she lost her life. Number 2. Plura Caves. Norway's Plura Caves used to be a spot where experienced divers would test their mettle, but ever since this incident, they have been closed indefinitely. In February 2014, several divers prepared to make the long trek to the other side of the cave, but 135 meters down, they lost 2 of their members. One member, Jari, got stuck halfway in a narrow passage, which caused immediate panic. That far down, that's a very dangerous thing. Fellow diver Patrick handed him an extra cylinder to prevent hypercapnia, which is excessive CO2 in the bloodstream. so like hyperventilating, but Jari panicked while switching and he drowned right in front of Patrick's eyes. Can't imagine that. Patrick did everything he could to stay calm and had to keep moving, but behind them, divers Kai and another man named Jari were due for a shock. Jari saw the body of Jari and panicked even though Kai tried to help him, and sadly Jari succumbed to the same fate. With the passage now fully blocked, Kai had to trek 11 hours back the same way he came all the way to the start. 2 months later, Patrick and Kai went back secretly to recover their friends, in which they succeeded, but no one else is allowed in those caves ever since then. Number 1. Deon Dreyer. And last but not least, the tale of Deon Dreyer. If this story doesn't haunt you, I don't know what will. Deon passed away in 1994 when his body was lost 270 meters in Bushman's Hole, South Africa. For 10 years his body remained there, but extreme diver David Shaw decided it was time to bring him home. But the dive went nowhere near as expected. With Shaw's experience in situations like this, there wasn't a doubt in anyone's mind he'd be okay. Shaw assembled a team and made the descent 270 meters down to find Dreyer. But when Shaw tried to put the body in a body bag, the skeleton started floating due to the wetsuit Dreyer still wore. At those depths, any panic or disorientation could be deadly, and indeed it was for Shaw. As he wrestled with the body and began his ascent, his light got snagged and he panicked because he already overexerted himself. Dave eventually passed out, and before long Bushman's Hole claimed his life as well, but almost poetically, the two bodies floated up to the surface together. Shaw made sure he fulfilled his mission even with his last breath. And that was that list. If any of you are divers out there, don't push your luck and never dive alone. Also, to my dad, he also dives and it scares me so much, but I think it's cool at the same time. I want to learn. Anyways, sadly we aren't immortal yet, so until then remember to take smart risks. If you like this video, tell us, smash that like button, comment, subscribe, and until next time guys, I've been your host Rachel Fisher. You can check me over at Bumblebee, and I'll see you next time. Take care.